everyone, and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 11th of March 2024. It's Gary here again, and well, you know what? I said last week that we had to prove that Motherwell was a wee bit of an anomaly in terms of the performance and, more importantly, the result, and that's exactly what we managed to do with the terrific showings, absolutely brilliant showings in Lisbon, and maybe not so much brilliant in Edinburgh, but doing exactly what we had to do, which was the main thing, and getting through the match there. And the only thing that's a wee bit of a downer is the injuries are mounting, aren't they? You know, and that's a genuine worry. And if we keep utilising the squad and keep rotating them and keep picking the pockets of the B team and the youth teams and maybe some of the cleaners and the ground staff at the training centre, we might just have every chance to succeed in this season and give us a wee bit of an opportunity to get more silverware in the trophy room. That's the target anyway. And here's another good thing, I think, to start off on a real upbeat positive for this week. The clocks changed here in North America on the weekend, and I think I managed to navigate it as well as I possibly could without actually putting my foot in my mouth, or opening my mouth to change feet, even is probably the best way to say it. So I think that's kudos to my the bullying that happened the last time I made a mistake. I think that worked. So I guess that's a bit of a win. So I'll get through the game segment here, and then we'll get you on with some content and some really nice shout outs to go accompany this pod for this week. Two games, of course, last week that I just talked about, starting with Thursday's absolutely, epic. It was an epic game, wasn't it? 2-2 draw in the Stadium of Light in Lisbon against Benfica. And to be dead honest, I didn't really know what to expect from this particular game, quite honestly. As it turns out, the weather was absolutely atrocious, wasn't it? It was like a summer's day in Glasgow, the way the weather absolutely pelted down of rain, certainly in the first half anyway. It was difficult to see in the second half what happened. And of course, as we're wont to do now, we put out a patchwork team due to the injuries that I just talked about. And I don't know, the first kind of 10, 15 minutes, it was kind of dodgy. We were giving the ball away a lot and hadn't really got anything going, quite frankly. And then after that, I thought we really just grew into the game, went ahead through a brilliantly worked goal that ended up with Diamande, or Diamand as the commentator was calling him, crossing it perfectly for Tom Lawrence, just to basically place it home with a header. And it was just bedlam. It was absolutely brilliant to see that goal going in. And do you know what it is? For me, we don't seem to care in Europe. I don't mean we don't care about playing in Europe. We just go out. We know we're set up for success. We know we are punching at the right weight in the Europa League there, and we just do a great job against every team we come up against of continuing to stick to a game plan, to press and probe and move and generally get in the opposition's faces, and that's exactly what we did against Benfica. They had, I think, over the course of the game, I don't obviously do this on the stats for each of the games, but I think if you were counting it, they probably had about 814 corners in the first half alone. And, then their soft penalty, and it was a soft penalty, by the way, comes from one of the corners where Suter is not even looking and heads it onto his own arm, and it's given after a VAR review that took about 25 minutes. After the actual incident. So here's where I have to give a bit of fair play to the Scottish VAR system. The length of time that VAR took, and then the ref heading over, and then finally giving the call that surprised everyone, well, surprised me anyway, of actually giving the penalty, was indeed reminiscent of how VAR works in Scotland. So maybe in Scotland we're just in the same mediocre level as the rest of Europe, and we shouldn't be quite so down on ourselves. But being down on ourselves is a trait for folks from Scotland, so let's just kind of go with that. So maybe it's a bit of winning for Scottish referees, Charlie Sheen style winning, of course, on that one. But it changes the complexion of the game, of course, going in at half time. Level as opposed to being one ahead, which we thought we were going to be. So then the team just decided we're not going to go in at one each, and we got another terrific move, full of invention, that culminates in a brilliant ball across from Silva to Sterling to just ghost in between the defenders and score his first goal for Rangers. And it was a brilliant goal to boot. And do you know what the funny thing is? For some reason, I just thought it was going to be offside. The way that I thought the camera angles on DAZN, which is what we were watching it on Thursday, I thought the camera management of the camera, which I guess is under the director, was terrible. You know, we'd get to a kind of attacking position and they would chop and change between a couple of different angles, and it's so off-putting because you don't really know where to look. So I didn't actually celebrate so much because it kind of looked like it was offside, and I was a wee bit confused. I had a bit of a brain fog on that one, and then on the replay you could see it very obviously wasn't offside, and then we go in at half time and you're like, wow. And at that point you're like, right, ref, come on, let's get this going here. Blow full time. In the second half, for some reason it seemed like as the weather let up, that seemed to kind of sap our energy. I don't know, I mean, it must have been very heavy underfoot for the team at the same time, but it just wasn't, we weren't playing quite as well as we did, I thought, in the first half, you know, giving the ball away a lot. And it's just as well we weren't playing against Motherwell or Kilmarnock or Dundee or Livingston or whomever we play against. That any time we have one mistake, it leads to a goal. You know, we were playing, it was just against Benfica, just one of the best teams in Portugal. So you know, we gave away a lot of possession, and you know, we didn't obviously get to concede a normal goal, but honestly we must have given the ball away about 20 odd times in the second half, like you know, in tennis you would call it an unforced error, and that's kind of what we did. And then their equaliser comes from Connor Goldson, who I'm assuming just decided to spite me for what I said about him last week and his finishing. And if that's genuinely the case, all we need, Connor, is for you to do exactly what you did in our box in the opposite box next time and then score a goal. And I hope this is an omen and the big man goes up and does it against Benfica and Dundee this week. But it was a horror. It was kind of dumb. I'm a defender and I would have been disappointed with one of my guys doing what Goldson did, but you know, you have to imagine that he didn't mean it, and it was just one of these things that happens in a game. So on the balance of play, when you look at the actual goals in and of themselves, they got a soft penalty and an OG for their two goals, and our two goals were sweeping moves that culminated in goals, and we could have scored more as well. So on the positives, the result, absolutely the result for sure. I think we would have all taken that. I would have certainly taken even a narrow defeat on the night, you know, to bring back to Ibrox. I say that in every European knockout game, is just bring it back to Ibrox or go into the second leg with a chance of progressing. And that's exactly what we did. I thought the performance was great. I thought the effort was fantastic. The endeavour was absolutely excellent. And as I say, we just seem to have a completely different attitude at this level, and we play to our strengths, and we seem to raise our game and play well, everyone. And my understanding is, after this game, from a positives slant or vantage point, is that the coefficient points Scotland's coefficient points could benefit from this, because I believe there's 3 teams from the Czech Republic in the competition, and two of the two racist teams that we've played in years gone by certainly got spanked and are most likely probably going to go out. As a result, we get a point in the game, so that's looking good for us to hang on to that 10th spot, if that actually turns out to be materially the case after the second legs, and then that helps us with automatic qualification for the Champions League beyond next season as well. So that would be good. Great to see Sterling score his first goal. Great to see McCausland come back after he got booted off the field there in the game previous, and I honestly thought that was Silva's best game for us. He was absolutely great, and Super Jack Butland did what he had to do, and what we're used to him doing now, which is just keeping the ball out of the net. And the main thing is we're still in with a shot on Thursday, and we get there. Ibrox is sold out. Get the team playing, get the energy from the fans to the team, and see where it takes us. I'd seen if what I've seen from Benfica is representative of who and what they are for right now. If we play to our strengths and really go and execute the game plan that Philippe Clement will put in place, we have a really, really good chance of progressing. The negatives, The 2 goals we lost, I thought were very, very unfortunate, as I mentioned earlier. So very, very soft penalty, and the OG from Connor Goldson. Angel Di Maria is just a runt. He's just one of these players that like nobody seems to like him. Like his own fans don't like him. He goes around the world. I mean, very talented player, but his antics were just pathetic, man. He's much better than that, and it's just too bad. And I guess the last negative would probably be our inability to keep possession, especially in the second half, was very poor. The stats kind of tell a bit of a story. We had 32% possession, 3-2. That's pretty low. I don't remember a time that I actually said a number as low as that. Maybe I did, I'm not sure. But in terms of shots on goal, we had 7 on goal and 5 on target, which is a pretty good return away in Europe, and they had 14 on goal and 5 on target, so the same amount of shots on target for both teams there. In the referee watch, I think, to be fair, I thought the referee, he did okay on the bigger calls. He had plenty of opportunities to lose control of the game with their antics and their diving and just general bad behaviour, but he did enough just to kind of keep it under control, keep it together. And I always feel, and this is probably the blue tinted glasses, but I always feel that we get booked for tackles that were okay earlier in the game, and then at some point later in the game the ref finally decides he's had enough of what he's seeing, and then he'll book us. But you're going, but they did it 4 times before we did it, and now you're penalising us for that. That's, you don't compound errors by one team, or fouls in this occasion by one team, by booking the other team when you just decide that you've had enough of that. So that's a wee bit annoying, because I thought his booking of Jack Butland was absolutely garbage. He wasn't, I mean, he was padding it a wee bit, but he wasn't being super blatant. But other than that, be nice, Gary. I'll give him a break and give him the standard 7 out of 10 for that one. Our second game was yesterday's 2-0 victory at Easter Road in the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup, and what ended up feeling like it felt like a battle scene from Braveheart at times, didn't it? The game, I thought overall the game was kind of nondescript for the most part, and neither team really hitting the heights, and it was just a kind of, I don't know, applauding, a kind of a routine victory until run about midway through the second half, and then Hibs decided it's time to go all Braveheart and decided it's stupid Sunday or whatever it was they decided, and they get 2 red cards in a 3-minute spell. And the annoying thing for me, if I'm a Hibs fan, is it was only 1-0 to us at that point, and which obviously came from a brilliant rebound effort from John Lundstrom after Tav had the penalty saved, and it's not very often you see players with that desire and hunger to go in there, and good for him for putting that in. But yeah, Hibs, just madness from them, wasn't it? And of course, I'm biased again, but I think even on the balance of play, if you watch the highlights back even, the win was absolutely thoroughly deserved. And, while we know what we get from a game or with a game, at Hibs, they're just not a very good team right now, and it's certainly not as good as they have been in the past. So we get a good entertaining game of football, you get the fans kind of semi-involved, but, we go and do 7-ish out of 10 by each player, and we win the game every single time against this current Hibs team. And I just felt we were in control for the entire match and put in a very, very efficient, if not spectacular, performances. The positives, of course, is getting to the next round, getting to the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, which we now know, and because I'm not recording this until a bit later in the day today, we now know we're playing Hearts. I kind of wanted the team from the East End in the semi-final just to put their season right to bed at that point, but we'll win the quadruple against them in the final then, if they manage to get past Aberdeen, which is not a given based on the way that Aberdeen are up or down like a yo-yo, and based on the way that they are performing as well. Seeing the goals that we got, of course, and getting ourselves to a spot where we're in the final is the main positives. Negatives, more injuries. Dujon Sterling has to go off, looks like a hamstring. Ross McCausland came on. It's a battle of a game. He wasn't supposed to come on, and then he gets on and then he gets injured, and that's kind of tough. I thought we managed ourselves extremely well through the negativity of them, just their antics was just bizarre, and that's desperation for me. When they know they can't beat you at football, they're going to try and beat you with some other sort of voodoo magic or something like that, and it's it's just kind of stupid, and it didn't really work in their favour. On the stats, 64% possession for us, 13 shots on goal, 7 on target. They had 5 shots on goal with 4 on target at the same time, but obviously never got it past Super Jack Butland there. In terms of the referee watch, Stephen McLean was he was kind of okay, while still being a wee bit all over the place, wasn't he? You know, it seems like it's not just the teams having a kind of later season wobble, but the referees seem to be having this as well. You know, I didn't hear any referee rumblings from Sharkhead for their game a wee bit earlier on in the day against Livingston, so you know by that they won their game. But for our game, I think he got the major calls right overall eventually, but he didn't have a horrible game like the previous 2 domestic referees did, let's just probably say that. But when he had the opportunities to calm things down by booking their fella for the penalty, which he should have done, and then booking him again for trying to shove, who was it? Was it Dessers that was going off and he was trying to shove him? Like, you're wasting time, get off. I mean, he's just trying to, you know, provoke a reaction of some description. He should have booked him for either of the 2 of them, those things, and then you don't get to a situation where he can actually elbow one of our players. So that was a miss. And then he does finally get his second yellow for that. And then he did well for the penalty. He called the penalty straight away with no hesitation. And then the straight red card was absolutely spot on as well. And of course we have to wait for VAR and all that. But it's right in front of the bench. You see the reaction from the Hibs bench trying to in some way protest the fact that it wasn't a red card. It's a red card all day long. The guy was dangerous play, just naivety at its finest. And McLean called that one right as well. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. A wee bit up and down, but you know, nothing too wild on his behalf that certainly affect the game anyway. And I don't think it was his fault for our injuries either. So we'll go with that. And as I say, we get a semi-final now at Hampden, back to Hampden again to look forward to, and against our old foes that we seem to play at Hampden every time we go to Hampden these days is Hearts. And that's going to be on the weekend of April the 20th or 21st. So we'll find out what the actual schedule is. For some reason I have it in my head that we always seem to play second in that, and then, you know, the pitch is a wee bit more cut up and it's a bit of an inconvenience, so maybe we'll get the first game and the pitch will be in decent condition, and then that mob can get the second game against Aberdeen. Who knows, we'll find out. Anyway, so 2 games this week, of course, in the Europa League and the League. And the first one is the big one against Benfica at Ibrox on Thursday the 14th of March, and that's a 1:45pm Eastern Standard Time kickoff, 5:45pm UK kickoff, a wee bit earlier, which is too bad. You know, you're looking for the Ibrox lights and the big, you know, European night, but the fans will still do what they need to do. It's the last 16 in the Europa League. This is a chance to get to the quarterfinals of a major European trophy. You know, we want to do everything we possibly can to get this, because we know we've got a pending international break coming up here, folks, and I'm sure the team, that will be drilled into the team as well, to go and give it their absolute all, do what they need to do on Sunday against Dundee to get the 3 points, and then move on from there. What I did notice yesterday was that Benfica finally won a domestic game. They'd been on a wee bit of a kind of downer of a streak there, so they won that. They'll know by now, after the game last week, they're in for a real game. And I guess it really just depends on the squad availability and how patched up they are to determine, you know, whether we're going to put a team out there capable of progressing in the tie or not. And hopefully we can, hopefully we do. The main thing is we have a chance, folks, and we have earned the right to enjoy this big night, and I hope that every single one of us does and we get the result that we're hoping for. The second one, as I alluded to there, is away to Dundee on the 7th of March, on Sunday the 7th of March, an early one. For us here, that's an 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time kickoff, noon in the UK, and we've enjoyed very good success against Dundee this season. We've played them twice. We've scored 8 goals. They've only scored 1. You remember the first time we played them was on I think it was the 1st of November, very early November anyway. And that was the 5-0 game after the bus got rerouted and we were late to the game and the kick-off, and then the pyrotechnics straight after the kick-off and all that. But we won 5-0, goals from Ryan Jack, remember him? Danilo, remember him? Sam Lammers, remember him? Cyril Dessers, we know him, and James Tavernier. There's the 5 different goal scorers, and then we beat them 3-1. early in December at Ibrox as well. Goals from Dessers and Tav again, and Sima. I remember him. So, and interestingly, that day you might remember that Dundee had scored first as well. So that was when we were going through a wee spell of losing the first goal. So hopefully we've eradicated that. Dundee are in the hunt. I know they got absolutely spanked at Sharkhead a few weeks back there, and that was kind of on the cards. But they're in the hunt for 6th place with Hibs and Motherwell. So this is not going to be an easy game. They've got a lot to play for right now, and I'm sure we'll get a good game. We just need to get the 3 points, as I mentioned earlier, by hook or by crook. Crucial games for the club, then an international break, as I mentioned, and then it's all systems go until the end. In terms of RTV, I think everything was okay. I didn't hear anything from any of the clubs yesterday, in fact. So hopefully all the login issues that blighted some clubs were eradicated and everything went okay. If that's not the case, please let Alan or myself know. On to the shout-outs. Going to start with a bit of a sad one and then try and... actually not try, and then I will lighten it up afterwards with some good news. But I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of the Rangers fan Thomas McAllister, who had died after the game in Lisbon. A fellow had visited our club, I think his name was Cameron or Cam, yesterday, and he was in Lisbon on Thursday night. He's doing a wee bit of travelling around, kind of jet setter, and he said that there was basically an accident or an incident in the pub next to him, and the fellow unfortunately lost his life. I believe he leaves a young family behind as well. Just absolutely devastating to hear what happened, and of course I think the general thing that everyone's saying is you don't go to a game not to return home. You know, that's just awful. So sincere condolences from everyone at NARSA to the McAllister friends and family circle. They're just devastating, awful news there. And also, I did want to acknowledge that I read today that Martin Boyle, who you remember got knocked unconscious basically yesterday, got home from hospital today after obviously being stretchered off and taken to hospital. They didn't show the replay, which, as you kind of know, then that's a bad one when you don't see the replay. And we did actually kind of rewind it a wee bit on one of the boys in the club's phones, and it was kind of like a nothing tackle. He just kind of went up and Suter was there, and he kind of just came down horizontal and gave himself a real sore one there. So great to hear that he's got a concussion. Not great to hear he's got a concussion. Great to hear it's only a concussion and he's home and he's resting, and hopefully he gets a speedy recovery from that. I don't like to see that with any players. With almost any players, I should probably say. And congratulations to Jo Potter for signing an extension to her current deal that takes her to the summer of 2026. I have to imagine that her current deal was maybe going to the end of 25. I'm not 100% sure about that, but yeah, she's done fantastic things for us since, for the women's team, of course, since she has come on board. So congratulations, well done, well deserved to get that extension. We're top of the league. We have a Sky Sports, that's easy for me to say, Sky Sports Cup final to look forward to. We have an Old Firm game this weekend, and we're in the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup. And also playing Celtic in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. That draw was made at the same time as the men's was today as well. She's doing pretty well in her first season. I say all that to kind of acknowledge that. So congratulations, well done, and as I say, well deserved to Jo Potter for that. Just a wee incidental aside, I don't know if this should be a shout out or not, but I read today, and this is where things that you wish your manager would do, you know, when the players that we hate for the other mob were playing, and the Lecce boss in Italy was sacked pretty much immediately after headbutting an opposing player from Hellas Verona in a game in Serie A yesterday. And I didn't see any footage of it. I wish I had looked at it so that I could see whether it was actually happened or not. But he denied it afterwards, you know, when footage apparently shows him very clearly headbutting the guy. You know, could you imagine Walter running on and just sticking it to Scott Brown or any one of the jokers that were in the other mob at some point in the past? We would have loved to have seen that. You know, there would have been a statue up long before there will be a statue up at Ibrox of Sir Walter if that had happened. And it just, the wacky game of football and the things that happen in the moment that shape your life and shape your career. A bit of a dodgy one there, but something I thought was quite amusing. Probably not amusing to the fellow who actually got sacked and the person who obviously got headbutted at the same time. On to some family news here that I got, which is another I guess, benefit of not recording until a wee bit later, because I would have missed this if I recorded it at the same time I had been recording over the last couple of weeks. I got two very nice messages from one from my niece and one from my nephew today. I'm going to start with my nephew. My nephew, former season ticket holder at Ibrox, Michael Kevin McNally. Yep, for regular listeners, you'll know I've talked about him before. Very, very staunch blue nose and a great guy to boot. Sent me a note today and then posted on social media afterwards that him and his lovely fiancée Tammy are expecting their first kid together in September of this year. Of course, it would be this year, because if I said last year or next year, that would be physically impossible. And in September, they are going to welcome their wee bundle of joy. I don't know if they know the sex or not yet, but if it's a guy, Michael assures me that he's going to be called after his favourite uncle, which is obviously me, so that's going to be great to have another Gary in the family, because the name is kind of dying out a wee bit, to be perfectly honestly. So thank you very much for that honour, Michael. By the way, he never said any of that sort of stuff. I'm just going to try and do a bit of pressure publicly to make him do that. But congratulations to Michael, Tammy, and to young Bella as well, to welcome a young brother or sister there. And my second message, which was just a few minutes actually before Michael's, was from my niece, Kaylee. And she just recently got engaged. I think you might remember me mentioning that one, to Scott. Scott is a very staunch blue nose and regular attendee at Ibrox, and they confirmed that their wedding is going to be on the 30th of May 2026 in Scotland. I looked up the resort. I think it's like a nice resort over in Dundee somewhere or something like that. So I will endeavour to have my coaching practice actually make me some money between now and then and get over for the wedding. And that's just a day before my dad would have been 89, if my calculations are correct. So a kind of poignant time there, and congratulations to Scott and Kaylee again for that, and really looking forward to that. It's nice to have something to look forward to just a wee bit in advance. Another quick shout out for the cultural night going to be hosted by Toronto Midtown Rangers Supporters Club with the Pride of the Birches Accordion Band from Portadown, Northern Ireland. That's going to be on Friday the 19th of July at 7 p.m. No cover charge, but do reach out to Toronto Midtown, TMRSC 1998 at outlook.com to reserve your spot, and that's going to be in their home, which is Gatherings Resto Bar in St Clair, 49 St Clair Avenue in the west of Toronto, I guess. I don't know if I've said that right or not, but hopefully that's okay. On to the convention. So on our ongoing negotiations, they are just exactly that. They're ongoing right now. We've had a draft contract, not a full contract proposal, but a draft contract of what could be in that. We had that in our possession. We got some feedback over to the hotel. The hotel gave us some feedback back, and I just sent back over our feedback on their feedback just earlier this morning. And the last I looked at my email a couple of hours ago, there was no response from them, but the next response will be a genuine draft contract. And if everything is addressed there that needs to be addressed, then I believe we would be in a position to be looking to sign. So getting very, very much closer on this one. Then we'll have the formal kickoff with all the key partners that we're going to be working on with this, and then we'll have some announcements to make, and hopefully that will be around about the time where we're really starting to gear up on putting the throttle on for our 56 title and our treble, and obviously our quadruple as well. So yeah, so we're getting very, very much closer on that. Really looking forward to getting that one over the line. As I said before, I think I've been missing this. I don't miss the constant hours that has to be spent on it, but when it's not there, you're kind of like, I miss it. On the comms front for this week, on the Gers guide for today, there's the away days issue on RTV chronicling yesterday's victory at Easter Road, and there's also highlights of the Scottish Cup victory, the congratulations to the women for their kind of topsy-turvy game actually on against Hibs yesterday. I think they were 2-0 up and then pegged back to 2 each, and then Hibs missed a golden chance to go 3-2 up, and then Rangers scored, I think it was like 3 goals rapid at the end. So not so much a genuine 6-2 game in terms of dominance overall, but 6-2 nonetheless, because they scored 6 and Hibs only scored 2. But yeah, congratulations to them for that. The highlights are on RTV for that. Tomorrow on the website there's going to be a loan review. On Wednesday is going to be the press conference for Benfica. On Thursday, of course, there's going to be the Benfica game. There's also going to be on RTV an interview with Joe Potter, which is essentially the preview of the Old Firm game this coming weekend. And on Friday, so I don't actually know when the press conference is going to be for the Dundee game. There's nothing listed on the Gers guide, so it's either going to be on Friday because we're in Glasgow. It's not an away game, because they kind of doubled up the what was it? Not the Motherwell game. Was it the Motherwell game for the press conference for the last league game? With the previous Benfica game. So no, I guess that would be the Hibs Scottish Cup game. My apologies. Jesus, Gary. So they might do that again. I don't think so. I imagine there's going to be a press conference on Friday or maybe Saturday even for the Dundee game. And then, of course, on Sunday is the Dundee game. And then the big one for the women is the game at Celtic in the Scottish Power Women's Premier League, and that's at the Excelsior Stadium with a kick-off at 4:10 UK time. So good luck to Joe and the women's team for that. On the communications front, we also, I don't know if I mentioned this before or not, so if I did, I'm going to repeat myself. We're going to put together a Euro 2024 pool that will give everyone an opportunity, NARSA members and NARSA friends, to get involved, and we'll get information on the rules and how to sign up and sign in, and there's some good prizes, and this is going to be run by a friend of NARSA, Bobby Jamieson. He's been doing this since the World Cup in 1998, he was telling me on the weekend there. So he's going to get some information over, we'll get that populated, we'll get it populated once we know the entire teams, which I think is going to be decided during this international break. Then we'll have the fixtures organised, and then we can get that out there. You can sign up, some good prizes for how things work out in the groups and knockout stages and such like that. I don't want to say too much because I don't actually know all the rules yet, but more details to follow. I will keep mentioning this until we get going, but anyone is welcome to join, and we'll get some prizes out for the successful folks as well. Another shout out for the International Coaches Convention that's being run by the club from the 27th to the 31st of March. I'll leave the YouTube clip up there. You could go double check. It's £495 per person. There's going to be a 3-day package and individual packages coming. I haven't seen any announcements about those yet, but once we have those details, we'll certainly communicate those as well. On the NARSA newsletter, I'm still looking for information on what you think and if you liked it. Lorraine is putting some information out there to try and get some participation from clubs. And what we'd like to do, and I think what we'll try and do this week, is put in photographs of your club, with yourselves there, with your flags there, maybe celebrating a victory or something like that. We got a really good one that was posted on social media yesterday from the Big Apple Bears in New York, with everyone standing outside with a flag, and you can see the weather's a wee bit nicer and such. So we'll probably use that for this week's newsletter and get a chance to do a wee bit of a feature profile. So if you're taking pictures when you're at the club, please send them over to Lorraine, and Lorraine will get them popped into the newsletter, and we're going to just continue to do things like that as we go forward. It's a wee opportunity for us to highlight the clubs, highlight the work we're doing, and just have another media outlet where we can engage with our membership. So anything you have that you think would be of good value, please by all means let us know. And nothing too big or nothing too small at all. For anything goes on the newsletter. We can make it as flexible as we need to make it there. And just one final thing, I have been liaising with Lynn, David Holmes' daughter, on getting David on the podcast here shortly. What I do want to do is have the book so that I can actually read the book and then have a bit more of an educated interview. So I'm going to work on that. I really should have ordered it last week, but I'll get that organised, and then we'll get that in your ears at some point over the next few weeks or so. Okay, my friends, that will do it. As always, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen, and please do share it with whomever you think might enjoy it. I am recording this today just on my phone. I ended up not being home in my wee studio that I typically use, and so the sound might be a wee bit different than it typically is, but hopefully it's still audible enough and it's still entertaining enough for you. And let's just see what this week brings. It's another massive week for the club, and I know I say that almost every week because every week really is a massive week for the club. We will take care of business and we will hopefully have a very, very enjoyable international break and give ourselves a real opportunity to convalesce, rest up, get some key players back, and then really go on a tear after the international break. That's the plan, my friends. Until next week, please do take care of yourself and we'll chat again then. Okay, take care now. Cheerio.